This story is so disturbing that the house involved was sealed for years, and even today, people in that neighborhood refuse to talk about it. It looked like a normal house. Same white walls. Same quiet street. Same ordinary life. But what was happening inside was anything but normal. And the worst part? The horror didn't come from strangers. It came from next door. It all began in a quiet suburban neighborhood just outside a small American town. The kind of place where nothing ever seemed to go wrong. Clean streets, friendly neighbors, kids playing outside until sunset. Everyone knew each other, or at least they thought they did. The Carter family had just moved in. Mark Carter, a 38-year-old software engineer. His wife, Alina, calm, quiet, always polite. And their 8-year-old son, Daniel, a shy boy who rarely spoke to anyone. To outsiders, they were just another family trying to start fresh. No one asked why they moved. No one questioned why the house next door had been empty for almost a year before they arrived. Because in neighborhoods like this, people don't ask questions. At first, everything seemed normal. Mark would leave early in the morning for work. Elena stayed home most of the time. Daniel was enrolled in a local school, but neighbors noticed something strange. He didn't make friends. He didn't play outside. And whenever someone tried to talk to him, he would just stare. Silently. As if he was listening to something no one else could hear. The house itself stood slightly apart from the others. Not physically, but emotionally. There was always something off about it. Lights would stay on at odd hours. Curtains were always drawn. And no one ever saw visitors. Weeks passed. Then months. And slowly the small things began. The kind of things people ignore. At first, Mrs. Harper, who lived across the street, was the first to notice. She had lived there for over 20 years. She knew every sound, every routine, every face. And one night she heard something new. A scream, not loud, not long, but enough. Enough to make her freeze. She looked outside. The street was empty. The Carter house completely still. Lights on. Curtains closed. No movement. She told herself it was nothing. Maybe a TV, maybe a nightmare. But deep down, she knew. That wasn't normal. A few days later, another neighbor reported hearing footsteps late at night. Heavy footsteps. Back and forth, as if someone was pacing for hours. Then came the sounds in the walls. Scratching. Slow. Deliberate, like something trying to get out. Or worse, trying to get in. Still, no one said anything. Because fear is easier to ignore when you don't understand it. But Daniel, he started changing. His teacher noticed it first. He would sit in class, completely still, staring at the corner of the room. Not blinking, not moving, just watching. When asked what he was looking at, he whispered something. So quietly, she almost didn't hear it. He's standing there. There was no one there. The school called his parents. Mark apologized. Said Daniel had a vivid imagination. Elena said nothing. She just smiled. A strange, empty smile, as if she already knew. Weeks later, things got worse. A delivery man came to the house. He knocked. No answer. But as he turned to leave, he heard something from inside. A voice. Not one, multiple. Whispering. Overlapping. Unnatural. He dropped the package and left. He never came back. By now, the neighborhood felt it. That tension. That invisible weight in the air. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But still, no one confronted them. Because what do you say? Hey, are those voices in your house normal? No. You stay silent. You mind your business. Until the night everything changed. It was around 2:17 a.m. The entire street woke up. Not from a scream, not from a crash, but from something far worse. Silence, complete silence, no wind, no insects, no distant traffic, just nothing. And then, a single sound. A door slowly creaking open, but not from outside, from inside the Carter house. And what happened after that, no one could ever explain. That night, after the silence broke, no one went outside. No one dared to check, because deep down, every single person on that street felt it. Something had changed. Something was now awake. The next morning, everything looked normal again. Sunlight filled the street. Birds were chirping, cars passed like any other day. But the Carter house felt different. The front door was slightly open, just enough to notice, but not enough to see inside. Mrs. Harper stood by her window staring at it, waiting, watching, hoping someone would come out. No one did. Hours passed. Still nothing. No Mark, no Elena, no Daniel. Just that door, slightly open. By afternoon, curiosity turned into concern. A neighbor finally walked up to the house. Slowly, carefully. He knocked. Once. Twice. No answer. But then, he heard it. A sound from inside. A faint, dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. He froze, held his breath, and listened. The sound stopped. Completely. As if whatever was inside knew he was there, he stepped back and left, without knocking again. That evening the door was closed, just like before, as if nothing had happened. But that was the moment when the neighborhood stopped feeling safe. Over the next few days, the activity increased. Lights in the Carter house began turning on and off at random times, sometimes all at once. Sometimes one room at a time. Late at night, shadows moved behind the curtains. Not one. Multiple. And they didn't move like normal people. Their movements were wrong. Too slow. Too sharp. Almost unnatural. One night, around midnight, a teenager walking home passed by the house. He later told police what he saw. At first, he thought it was a reflection, a trick of the light. But then, he realized it wasn't. Standing in the upstairs window was Daniel. But something was off. His face was completely still. No expression, no emotion. And his eyes were wide open. Too wide. Unnaturally wide. The boy waved at him. Daniel didn't respond, didn't blink, didn't move. And then, slowly, his head turned, not naturally. Not like a normal person, but slowly, inch by inch, until it faced something behind him. Something inside the room. The teenager ran. He didn't look back. The next day, rumors spread, but still, no one had proof, just stories, just fear. Then came the smell. At first, it was faint, barely noticeable, but day by day, it grew stronger, rotten, heavy, sickening. It seemed to come from the Carter house. Neighbors began keeping their windows closed, avoiding the street, avoiding each other. Because once you start talking about fear, it becomes real. A week later, the power went out. Not the entire neighborhood, just one house. The Carter house. It happened suddenly. All lights off. Darkness. Complete darkness. For hours. And yet, people still saw movement inside. Shadows moving in rooms that had no light. Figures passing windows. Something was still there. Even in the dark. That same night, Mrs. Harper made a decision. She couldn't take it anymore. She picked up her phone and called the police. 2 officers arrived. Calm, professional. They had heard strange complaints before. Most of the time, it was nothing. But this felt different, even to them. They approached the house, knocked on the door. No answer. They tried again. Louder. Still nothing. One officer looked at the other. Then slowly, he reached for the handle and pushed the door open. Inside, it was dark, cold, unnaturally cold. The air felt heavy, thick, like it didn't want them there. Hello? Police? No response. They stepped inside, flashlights on, sweeping the room. The living room was empty, furniture in place. Everything looked normal, too normal. Then they heard it, a sound from upstairs, a soft whispering. multiple voices, talking at once, but not in any language they understood. The officers looked at each other, and for the first time they hesitated. Slowly, they moved toward the stairs, each step creaking under their weight. The whispers grew louder, closer, clearer, but still impossible to understand. Halfway up, one officer stopped. His flashlight flickered, just for a second, but in that second, he saw something, standing at the top of the stairs, watching them. A figure, tall, still, not moving. The light came back, and the figure was gone. "Did you see that?" he whispered. The other officer nodded. Neither of them wanted to say it out loud. They reached the top. The hallway stretched ahead. Dark, silent, doors on both sides, all closed, except one, at the very end, slightly open. The whispers were coming from inside that room. They walked toward it, slowly, carefully, hearts pounding. One officer reached for the door, paused, took a breath, and pushed it open. Inside, they found something that would change everything. The door creaked open slowly, and the whispers stopped. Instantly, like something inside the room knew they had arrived. The officers stepped in, flashlights cutting through the darkness, and for a moment, everything looked empty. Just an ordinary bedroom, a bed, a chair, a closet. Nothing unusual. But then, they noticed the walls. Every inch of them, covered in writing, scratches, symbols, words carved deep into the surface, over and over again. The same phrase repeated, hundreds of times. "He is not gone. He is not gone. He is not gone." One officer stepped closer, running his fingers across the wall. The carvings were fresh, deep, made with force. "This isn't normal," he whispered. And then they heard it again, not from the walls, not from the hallway, but from inside the room, a soft breathing. They turned. Slowly. The closet door was slightly open. The breathing was coming from inside. One officer raised his flashlight, pointed it at the gap. The light shook slightly in his hand. "Come out," he shouted. No response. The breathing continued, slow, heavy, unnatural. He stepped forward, each step louder than the last, closer, closer. Until he reached the closet, he grabbed the handle, paused for just a second, and pulled it open. Inside was Daniel, standing perfectly still, head tilted slightly, eyes wide open. But something was wrong, very wrong. His skin was pale, too pale, almost gray. His lips moved, slowly, but the voice that came out was not his. "We told you not to come here." Both officers froze. "Daniel?" one of them said. The boy didn't respond, didn't blink, didn't move. And then his body jerked, violently. His head snapped to the side, at an impossible angle. And suddenly he smiled, a wide, unnatural, inhuman smile. The lights went out. Darkness. Complete darkness. The officers shouted, flashlights flickering, struggling to turn back on, and in that darkness, they heard it. Not one voice, not two, dozens. Whispering, laughing, crying, screaming, all at once, surrounding them. One officer felt something, brush past him, cold, wet. He turned, but saw nothing. The other officer screamed. His flashlight turned on for just 1 second. And in that second, he saw them. Figures, standing all around the room. Tall, dark, twisted shapes. Watching, waiting. The light went out again. Then silence, complete silence. The next morning, the house was empty. No Mark, no Elena, no Daniel, and no sign of the officers. The police report said the house was abandoned, but the truth was far worse, because inside that room, they found something. Not bodies, not evidence, but the walls, covered, with new writing, hundreds of fresh carvings, different handwriting, different styles, all saying the same thing. Now you see U.S. Now you hear U.S. Now you belong to U.S. The house was sealed. Immediately, authorities closed the case, declared it unsafe. No one was allowed near it again. Years passed. The neighborhood changed. People moved away. New families came, but the house remained empty, silent, watching. And sometimes, late at night, people still report something. Lights turning on, shadows moving, and a boy standing in the window, watching, waiting, smiling. So the question is, what really happened inside that house? Was it just a family, hiding something dark? Or did they open a door that was never meant to be opened? And if those voices were real, if those figures were real, then maybe they were never trapped inside that house. Maybe they were just waiting for someone new, because some doors, once opened, never truly close.